there. Eagles are favored by 7 at home here.
Yeah. Obviously, Doug Farrar tweeted this out as well. This is what you're going to be focusing on. I think it's what everybody's going to be focusing on. Jalen Carter was dominant week 1. Looked like not just could he replace Javon Hargrave, but he might be an upgrade over Javon Hargrave.
Yeah.
And now he gets to go against the Minnesota Vikings interior offensive line, which is still a weakness. That has disaster written all over it from a Vikings perspective. That's got to be the biggest thing in this game, I think.
Yeah, and remember, it's just one matchup, right? So when we talk about, there were some defensive tackles this past weekend that absolutely wrecked games, quote unquote wrecked games. It doesn't always show up within the game because, like, even when Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis had really good games up front, the Patriots really struggled at guard, and they were in the backfield a lot. But Mac Jones had a few passes where he was under pressure and he still completed them. But over time, if you keep winning up front, 7-8 times a game, that has a huge impact on the offense. So yeah, that's going to be a massive challenge, especially if it happens on the right plays. You know, you see that if Jordan Jefferson's running wide open in the secondary and it happens to be on the play where
right.
Jalen Carter wins in 2 seconds, you're done.
Yeah.
So that is a matchup to keep an eye on where the Vikings are going to have to give Carter and maybe Jordan Davis extra attention.
Yeah, it's not even, it doesn't, always show up in games. I would say it rarely shows up in games to the extent where it impacts who's going to win and lose. There's a reason there's only a couple of people getting injured position-wise that move the line, the Vegas line, the point spread. Essentially, Vegas has said that one individual player at most positions, no matter how good he is, being out is unlikely to change the outcome of the game. And most of the time they're right. Usually it's an accumulation of injuries or when the drop-off at a certain position is so massive. It's not even like this guy is amazing. It's that the dude coming in to replace him is terrible. And that is what can change the game. So you see that at corner sometimes where, the drop-off between a good guy and the guy who's now number 3, 4, 5 on the depth chart is catastrophic, and that's the problem. But there are individual matchups in the trenches that are so one-sided that it can change games. And it's not necessarily that you can predict them, but when they happen, it's clear. I mean, the Vikings were on the receiving end of one last year when Dexter Lawrence in the playoffs basically decided, I'm going to stop you winning this game on my own, and you can't block me. There's nothing you can do about it. And that really did determine the outcome of that game. Obviously, other things were a factor, but Dexter Lawrence moved the needle in terms of them winning that game or not. This is that kind of mismatched. Jalen Carter against anybody on the interior of that Vikings offensive line has the potential to create that kind of havoc for Minnesota.
Nice matchup on the outside. Justin Jefferson, we've got James Bradbury's in concussion protocol, yes? So we'll see a little Justin Jefferson, Darius Slay. Don't know if James Bradbury will be there to play on Thursday night. We didn't see as many two tight end sets as I expected from the Vikings. I'm curious if they end up getting to that. The TJ Hawkinson, Josh Oliver look. They were still pretty much a 3 wide receiver type of team. I thought Kirk Cousins played all right, had some weird plays in there, had some good downfield passes. Justin Jefferson was uncoverable in week 1 in the first half, but then slowed down a little bit in the second half. But I like that matchup for the Vikings because Justin Jefferson is still awesome. So I think it's going to come down to Jefferson needs to have an incredible game here because I don't like the matchup on either side. I think you've got game wrecker on one side for the Eagles on defense. On the other side, the Eagles do not play well offensively. Now, how much of that was they were sleepwalking? They were conservative with a big lead that they were handed. They were playing in the rain a little bit early on. They were playing a good Patriots defense. Patriots defense was just fundamentally sound in the run game, and they did a really nice job. Minnesota, on the other hand, do they have the defensive front to stop the Eagles' run game, to handle the offensive line like New England did, and then in the secondary to cover A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith? I don't love it for Minnesota.
It's interesting. The Eagles' performance. So you see, week 1 power rankings come out, right? And it's overreaction season. So everyone goes, oh, wow, look at this. After week 1, random team with a win. Like Dallas goes up to number 2 or 1.
Did you see my power rankings?
I didn't. No.
I put, because this is how people do power rankings.
Yeah.
I'm going to add some flavor to what you're saying.
All the 1-0 teams?
16 teams are tied
Okay.
for first.
Oh, first. Tied.
Yep. And 17 teams or 16 teams are tied for 17th
Yeah.
at 0-1.
Okay.
Because that's pretty much how people do their power rankings.
Yeah.
Did you win? You go to the top.
Right.
Oh, you lost, but you're the Chiefs. Oh, I think we'll drop you to 5. We'll drop you to 5.
Right. But usually there's a sort of huge swing of instant reaction, like Dallas shoots up to number 1 or 2 on power rankings, right? And it was all those sort of the Fields teams. Dallas goes to number 1. San Francisco goes to number 2, like dominant week 1 performances. People didn't drop Philadelphia. So I saw power rankings from somebody where the top 3 teams were in the NFC, which is obviously not what you expect heading into a season where the narrative is, the AFC is incredible, the NFC sucks.
Yeah.
But it was San Francisco, dominant week 1 win, Dallas, dominant week 1 win, and then Philadelphia, who like stumbled over the line against the Patriots, having built a 16-0 lead early in the game. People didn't ding them for that rough outing. I don't know if it's just because they won or because it's like, we give them some credit in the bank because they made the Super Bowl last year, blah, blah, blah. But, I think that week 1 performance will put some pressure on them, even if it's only internal, to show up against Minnesota and prove that they are a dominant team and that, things are still well.
Yeah, I mean, there's many reasons not to overreact to week 1. Like, you shouldn't drop the Eagles that far. There's many reasons not to overreact to week 1. Here's a few of them. Small sample sizes, obviously. It's only 1 game. Matchups, right? You had a very specific matchup in week 1, and week 2 will be very different. And then just home field advantage, generally. I think the biggest mistakes people make, I say this every single year, is when the home team looks great in week 1, and then they go on the road in week 2, and it's a little different, right? And vice versa. So the Eagles get to go home in a good matchup against Minnesota where they have some serious advantages with their receivers against Minnesota's cornerbacks, with the Eagles' defensive line against the Vikings' pass blockers. I mean, there's a lot of advantages here. That's why the Eagles are favored by 7. So where are you leaning here? You get the Vikings, who play a lot of close games.
Other notable, I guess, injury concerns. You talked about James Bradbury, questionable with the concussion. Nakobe Dean's going to be out. He had a Liz Frank injury in his foot that's going to put him out for a while. Bummer for him. He looked, I think, pretty good at linebacker. I also wonder if the Eagles' run game performance in week 1 is going to change how they see that backfield. Rashad Penny was a healthy scratch week 1. I don't think that that's smart. I don't know if they want to do that again week 2, but we'll see.
Was it week 2, by the way? Was it Monday Night Football, week 2 last year these teams played when Kirk Cousins kept throwing the ball to Darius Slay?
I wouldn't do that if I was Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
I would specifically avoid doing that.
Last time these teams played, Philadelphia absolutely handed it to them. And again, that doesn't always matter for the matchup, but it's something to remember.
Yeah, and short week. So any of these sort of injuries coming out of week 1 are potentially bigger problems. Like Christian Darrisaw with an ankle injury.
Yeah.
You don't have a lot of time to get that ready, and there's a pretty good pass rush coming your way. That could be an issue. 7 points is a lot. I still feel like the Eagles might be worth it, though. I don't know. I have big questions about this Minnesota team heading into the season generally, but week 1 didn't do anything to remove those.
They lost to the Bucs, who we didn't think were that good going in. They might be better than we thought, but there's a chance that was a matchup of,
By the way, you
underwhelming.
didn't update the people. You went 8-8 in your.
In our week 1
we both
picks.
did, in fact. But you specifically is notable because you very much didn't go 8-8 most of last year.
I didn't get my 8th win till week 8 last year.
Right.
Something like that.